there, Noemi Weis. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you so much, Larissa, for having me with you today and to have a chat about connecting the dots.
I think you're my new queen of screens and queen of mental health. I just want to introduce you a bit. You have a background in communication. You have a background with advertising. You had your own company, and you have dazzled with other documentaries, I think, as well.
I have done many
Yeah,
documentaries. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. And this is the one to me that gravitated to me the most, I think, because of what my background is. And I just wanted to say thank you, thank you, thank you.
I,
um, so I've worked with teens for almost now since I was 19. So that's a very long time because I'm 47 now. So I've worked with them as a teacher, as a coach, and as a behavioral consultant. I am now seeing teenagers be so distant. Even as a teacher and as a coach, they don't want to bond with adults anymore. They all want to bond to their phone. And I want to know, my first question is, what made you want to do this? Like, was there some moment in your life that made you want to do this, or?
no, I've been doing social issues and human rights films for many years.
Oh, good, good.
So I've done films mostly about women and children, um,
Yeah.
related to different topics, from domestic violence to gay rights to child traffic. My last film, Milk, was
You did, yeah, yeah, I
is
saw that.
is about the commercialization of birth and infant feeding, the beginning of life, and then I was brought into the topic of youth mental health. And once I started reading the statistics and I started reading what was happening, I felt that compelled,
Yeah,
and I felt that if I have the medium to support the young people, then I should do something about it. And the more I read, the more involved I became, and my heart sank when I read the statistics, and then that's how I started 3 years ago, well, more than 3 years
yeah, you
ago,
said, yeah,
working on this very thorough research. I tend to go very deep into research to try to understand a new topic that I know nothing about, and want to know it all. So I spoke to very, very, very people, and for a period of 2 years at least,
yeah.
I was very much involved in conversations with hundreds of professionals and young people from Canada and from the US and from
Yeah,
around
it's
the
funny,
world.
all over the world. Hmm. Yeah. Now, you have a beautiful film here in my eyes that is reaching the world in different ways on different levels. And can you share to our listeners why? And I think I know why. I'm not sure. I'm not going to speak for you, but I'm guessing why you didn't include adults or experts in this film. Just kids, mainly from what I saw, I think. Yeah.
There are no adults in the film. That's what makes the film very unique. I mean, it was my instinct from the very beginning when I started working with the film and doing research that this was a platform for young people. And then it grew. I did interview some very prominent professionals in the field, and I filmed with them.
Yeah.
But when we got into the editing room, it was very clear that the adults were going to stay apart from the film, and that the voices were going to be exclusively about the young people
Yeah.
themselves. They are very eloquent, and they know what they want. And the thesis of my documentary was, from the beginning, was what have we created as a society to have these generations of young people feeling this way. So it's up to all of us to listen right now, and it's their voice that needs to come to the forefront. So that's been the mission of the film. That's been the take that from the very beginning creatively, and it makes the film quite unique.
I think it does too, because in part of my research, actually, when I speak to parents, is listen. Listen to your children. Put your phones down and listen and value the person in front of you. Don't Teenagers are like little adults and want to experiment a bit. And I always say, let them make mistakes. This is the best time for them to make mistakes. So let them talk to you without criticism. Give them space, enough space, and you'll have a healthy relationship. So I hope that seemed to come out of your film to me. Anyway, I'm hoping that's what I got out of that. Now, there's a few stories I liked, but I want to know from you, what story did you really want to keep in that film that kind of made you feel like your heart was melting and you needed to get this out?
There is not one against the other one. I don't think there's a competition between them. First of all, before going to film, there was a lot of strategic decision on how to choose the places where I would be going. And all of the stories are selected on the fact that they represent symbols of hundreds of other stories that I have heard through the process of research. So I would not say that there's one more than the other. I think that all of them have a reason for why they are in the film, and each one of them represents another spark of a conversation into so many different levels that we can talk about when we discuss youth mental health.
Yeah, excellent, because I saw so much. I don't even know how you could put it all in there. Right, it was really well done, because from my perspective, working with kids and being in education, I don't think you can put one story in the forefront of another. I just meant as if you met a child that sort of spurred this all on in action. But it sounds like, and every child's emotions are so important to that child, right? And one child might be feeling anxious. One child might be feeling left alone. One child may feel like they're not ready to come out of the closet. They're all dealing with such very valid emotions, and I don't like it when I work with teens, because I do teen coaching, that they don't feel valued, right? Their feelings don't. And I heard that from the field, and that was so well. I was like, oh my gosh, can I get through this? It was so good to get to see that. Now we know the mental health disorders, and now that I know you've done all your research, the anxiety, the depression, and suicide are tripling. In fact, now, and I'm not even including COVID numbers in this. This is prior to COVID. The numbers. When you were talking to all these people, what did you learn about mental health? What more did you learn?
I learned an enormous amount of things about mental health. I don't think that anyone reflects on mental health in the way that it deserves. And I think that once we start delving into emotions, I mean, one of the things that for me was very important was to offer young people the possibility of not being censored, to actually have the freedom of expression. And if we talk about human rights, which has been something that I've been doing with all my films, is mental health is also a human right, but also the platform that I offer young people was to feel quite open, not to censor themselves, and to be able to express their feelings in a way that, as long as I said to them all along, as long as we are respectful for one another, there's nothing that we should censor about it, right? So the learning curve is enormous. I mean, talking with so many professionals, talking to so many young people, and also, there's a big self-reflection. There's a lot of issues that make you think, that make you realize that maybe are we doing right? Are we not doing right? And also trying to be very objective. I've been always very objective in all my films. I am the storyteller. I am the one who's providing the story, but it's their story. So being very respectful to the testimonies of each one, and trying to be objective, but also thinking about the audience, thinking always about the audience, and what is going to motivate the audiences to be able to not only reflect but take action. And the film speaks to very many different aspects of the different audiences, because mental health, when we deal with youth, I think that it affects absolutely every single person in our society. We
Absolutely.
look at the youth as being the future, but I think that the message is to look at them in the present time and bring them to the conversation and make them be part of the conversation. So we don't want to talk about them without them, and they are the ones to tell us. So I was not prepared or by any means to put blame or guilt in parents or educators or society at large, but yes, a good call to action to absolutely everyone to understand that we all need to get together and we all need to learn. And I think that the film is bringing information to a lot of people that are not aware of. They are bringing a reflection from the survey that we did after the screening that we had in November. The positive responses have been wonderful, but we can see that there's a lot of reflection and a lot of people taking action, which is exactly what the mission was of that particular screening. And education is the key to everything. And I think that we need to educate the public at large about the importance of mental health, and then collaborate and train and help whoever needs it, because there's a lot of needs in the different target audiences. And I think that needs to happen, from professional development to schools, to parents, and to peer-to-peer support as well, to young people as well, so they will feel that they are motivated and empowered by the fact that other people are representing their story as well. So they'll be open enough to break that silence. But the overall thing is that hopefully together we can repair, I would say, the system to a way that it will help everybody.
Now, in your film, you followed, I think it was Megan, for quite some time, from high school to university. Why did you keep her in there for so long? I wonder, but I think, it was wonderful. Why did you keep her in there for so long?
Well, I selected Megan in a way because her story said a lot. I followed Megan for 2 years, from the dark to the light.
Yes.
I think that her story is very inspirational. And I think that having been very close with her from the very beginning and seeing the transformation was very inspiring. From a narrative point of view, as we always want to develop a character, if we want to call them character, but a participant, a contributor to the film in a way that the audience can understand. And it was very important for me, doing research and talking to a lot of adults and professionals in some level as well, that did not understand the crisis that young people were going through. So showing the dark moments of Megan in a way were a wake-up call to the audience to say, this is real. She is having a panic attack. She is anxious. She cannot sleep at night. She's not getting the support that she needs at the moment. And I think that was very important. So the film really in the first act follows very much the problem as it stands. This is the problem, but then we move forward into presenting some preventative solutions to come to a position of hope, which is something that I envision from the very beginning. I think that it's very important, no matter how dark the subject matter is that I'm dealing with. I always want to bring hope, and it's very clear at the in the third act that the film is bringing hope and letting people know that they are not alone.
Well, it's interesting because I was a teacher for years, and then I worked as a consultant. I've been a coach, and now I'm working with parents on the other side. But when I was a teacher, I had 90 students a day, and I would worry about the one that didn't show up. And I would worry, and I would call the parents or I would call and find out what's wrong with, Jane Smith. And I mean, I found out she tried to commit suicide. I went to the hospital. I went. No one else went to see her but me. And so I said to the principal, what do I do here? She has no one else. So the school and I got together and someone stayed with her but then when and that was hopeful to me, right? It was just one. And now I'm finding that there's more people absent in the classes. Absenteeism has hit an all-time high in schools for various mental health reasons, for phone addiction, gaming addiction. Kids are staying up till 3 and 4 a.m. But teachers, it's almost like we only had 1 or 2 children to worry about. And now we have over 20 out of 30 to worry about. And when we go to meet the parents at Meet the Teacher Night, which I love personally connecting with parents, because then I'm like, okay, that kid's good. That kid's off my list, right? My worry list. And I can focus more and I don't feel like I have the jitters when I'm, worried about Johnny when, he's not in class. Okay, I know what he's doing. Okay. So then I go to the parents and I say, okay, your child is exhibiting these behaviors, or he's slipping in his marks. Is everything okay? And the parents shut it down, complete denial, and they say everything's all right. Now, other parents don't, and we work things out and we communicate and we actually talk weekly to work through and help their child. And those children where a teacher and a parent work together, their success rates are so high, really, really high. And you were saying a solution. Well, one of my solutions was, imagine if we had communication that was more frequent between schools and home. Those children, and they do a program like this in Germany, it's amazing. Did you find a disconnect between the kids in school? Did they say that more than the other? I thought I hinted at it in there.
Well, there is a lack of communication in the schools about mental health because the teachers are not prepared to talk about it, be it by stigma or being because they don't have the knowledge to support it. So that's the problem. And in a lot of the schools, there is maybe just one counselor to so many thousands of students, which is impossible. And then at the same time, there's not enough resources to support this. And we think about it. And I just had a call with an organization in the US. They just lost a grade 8 kid 2 days ago. And it was extremely sad. This continues to happen. So could that have been prevented? Maybe. Could we do something about preventing? I don't think that I speak about solutions in the film because I don't know if there are solutions, but there are certainly ways of prevention that we can be aware of. And in terms of prevention is to talk about and to have a communication, but how many teachers do have the ability to sense that something is wrong with that child? And that's very difficult. So in a time of COVID right now, when everything is virtual, even more difficult. But yes, the society, when we talk about society, I say it very often. I mean, for me, the society starts with the family. That's the first nucleus of society that child is part of. So if we have a good foundation in the family itself, then definitely we'll see the difference. But we have to support that family as well with education. And I think a lot of what's happening, without blaming it on technology, without blaming it on the system, it's a combination of things that have happened in our society where
it's a multi-layered solution, really.
That's right. So we cannot really speak about a solution, but we can talk about prevention and we can talk about education, which is fundamental in every single thing that we do. There's absolutely nothing that will move forward without a proper education. Yeah. And that's where it comes in, the topic of mental health as much as any other topic.
It's interesting because years ago, I tried to write psychological curriculum that would be implemented in children in school to children under 9, and it was dismissed. And I thought, imagine if we could do that, have a course designated to that. But what worried the other people when I put this forward was that, well, then parents won't do it. So I was hit with that. And I'm like, well, there's still got to be a solution here, right? There still has to be. I think it's both ends, personally. It's both ways. It's through the home and through parents. And now when parents and families are spending 960 hours a year apart on a device, it's more now important that your film be watched, because you say in there, it becomes very apparent that we need to listen. We need to talk, and we need to laugh and hang out with our families. And that little family society is almost broken down now. And I hope that after this, and after people see this, they will focus more on their loved ones, and they'll put the phone down and not worry about social media. They're going to worry about the child in front of them, and,
Right.
and play cards with them, or go for walks with them and enjoy that. Is that what you want? Is that the solution that you're looking for?
I am cautious about calling it a solution. I come back to prevention. I come back to education. I think that what we need is communication above all. I think that we need to sit down and talk. I think that not being able to talk is a big problem. And parents are very busy, and teachers are very busy, but then that child is left alone. And I think that's important to bring some level of understanding and balance into everybody's life, which has been very, very difficult. And maybe the good of the pandemic might be that families are more at home, that they are working from home, that they are more in touch with one another, that they are spending time together. Even if they are all busy doing their own things, parents are working from home, but maybe they are in communications that they can have a bite together, or they can talk about their feelings. And then talking with a child about their feelings is also a skill that not all parents have. And understanding where that anxiety comes in, where that depression comes in, what is causing that child not to be happy. If we, and what is happiness? What makes that child happy? It might not be the same thing that makes another child happy,
right? Because
but it's a communication. And I think,
like playing Lego, and another kid wants to always draw, right? They're all so unique, right?
exactly.
I have 3 children. I don't know about yourself, but they're all very, very different in how I parent them. They all have different personalities, and I think as a parent, it's our job to be attuned, and it's our job to find out what that formula is that's going to work for that child, because it definitely doesn't work for my middle child. It doesn't work for my little one. So I had to really adapt and figure out how that I was going to approach this, because she's very different. Right? Now I'm excited because you did a huge virtual screening. I thought that was, how did you even organize that?
It was a production on its own. Yes, it was a very big production, and I'm very proud to say that it went really well. And the survey that we just did came back with results of really wonderful, 97% positive, and beautiful accolades. And the idea of a film of this nature is to be able to spark conversation and invite communities to host their own screening in their own communities, and bring a conversation or a panel discussion or a workshop, depending on the target. And that was very targeted into the who did we go to. I have worked in a global way my whole life. I mean, that's how I formed Film Blank back in '98, when there was no internet and there was no globalization.
I know, you think about that now. It's amazing.
But my thought was, how do we bring the world together? And I think one of the good things about the pandemic, in a way, as much anxiety as it caused to me the fact that I was finishing up a film and not knowing how I was going to release it, was the fact that going virtual, we could go global, and my film is very global. That's the message that I am putting out there. So it it was a very good opportunity. So the first thing for me was strategically to think of the partners that could align to help bring that audience. And I reached out, and I had a very positive feedback back, and support, and that's how the partners that came on board were globally, like UNICEF Global and Global Mental Health from Harvard, and Frame here in Canada, who came on board immediately and who supported from the very beginning. And then we had Kids Health Phone, and we had, I might forget someone as I'm talking to, because and we had, Kids Health Phone International as well, to be able to support everyone. So we had another organization from Australia origin, and we had the International Association of Mental Health. So it was a very strategic plan on my side to think of the partners that could actually help. And then with a very, very talented group that supported me, we planned strategically, and we went out to the world, and the results were right on screen. So it was
very, for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I just want to say in conclusion for all the listeners here, Noemi has done a fantastic job at starting this conversation about this real medical crisis we have on our hands. And this is pre-COVID, by the way, listeners. And I implore you to watch this film. I implore you to sit down with your kids. I implore you to think about solutions, perhaps within your own homes, or school boards, or medical associations, or mental health associations. And perhaps we need to include more in our curriculum. Perhaps we need to parent educate more in a younger age group, right? I hope that comes out of this for you.
Thank you so much. I mean, the invitation to all of the organizations that you mentioned right now is to connect with us and to host a screening in their own community, be it for parents, be it for teachers, be it for young people, professionals in the field.
Yeah.
The film, the real work of the film, although I've been working for the last 3 years, starts now. This is the beginning. This is the very beginning of making a difference. And by doing that and bringing it to communities, and that will be the spark. And films of this nature have proven success in creating impact, but also motivating and provoking implementation of changes, which is what keeps me going.
Right. Now, one question, a personal question for me. If I wanted to do a virtual screening, like for my son's school, my daughter's school, how would they do that with you? How would I do that?
The people should visit the website at connectingthedotsfilm.com.
Okay.
We have a page that is called Host a Screening, and then connect with us, and we'll help them out to make it happen.
Oh, thank you so much for being here. I could talk to you for the whole day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My pleasure, and thank you for your kind words about the film and for motivating other listeners to join us in this mission. We are in this all together. We'll be stronger.
Yes, we are. Thank you.